The Silent Valley incident on the morning of September 12, 1994. A small search and rescue team was dispatched into the Silent Valley Forest Reserve in northern Montana. At first glance, the mission seemed routine. A group of college students from Spokane had gone missing while on a weekend hiking trip. They were expected back on Sunday evening. But when none of them returned and no calls came through, parents began to panic. The local sheriff's office attempted radio contact, but there was no response. Given the reputation of the Silent Valley area, dense pine growth, steep cliffs, and weather that could shift in a matter of minutes, officials feared an accident. What they didn't realize was that the search they were about to begin would uncover something far more disturbing than an ordinary hiking mishap. Silent Valley wasn't a popular tourist destination. In fact, most people avoided it. The trails were poorly marked, the terrain unforgiving, and local hunters often swapped stories about strange noises at night, animal cries that didn't match any known species, and inexplicable lights that sometimes flickered between the treetops. Locals had given the place a nickname, the Hollow, implying that something vital about the forest was missing, as though it held an emptiness too heavy to describe. By Monday afternoon, the first rescue team of 6 entered the reserve. They followed the marked trail for about 3 miles before cutting off toward the ridge where the students were last reported. Along the path, they noticed the ground was unusually soft, damp, despite the fact that it hadn't rained in weeks. Patches of moss spread thick like carpets, muffling every step, and the silence of the forest pressed down on them. No birds, no insects, no distant rustling of deer or squirrels. Just silence. 2 hours into their hike, the team found the first trace. A torn backpack, snagged on a branch about 8 feet off the ground. The strap had been ripped, not cut, as though someone or something had yanked it away with immense force. Inside, they found water bottles, a sweater, and a disposable camera. The film was soaked from condensation, but one photo could still be made out. A blurry picture of the group smiling at a trailhead, oblivious to the fate awaiting them. The team pressed deeper, radioing their discovery to base. Another hour later, they stumbled upon a makeshift campsite. 3 tents unzipped, with sleeping bags still inside. One tent was collapsed completely, as if crushed from above. Scattered around were hiking boots, cooking utensils, and a small propane stove, still half full. But there were no footprints leading away. In fact, there were no footprints at all. The soil around the camp was strangely undisturbed, as though the occupants had simply vanished into thin air. What unsettled the rescuers most was the smell. Not the smell of decayed, there were no bodies but a chemical odor, sharp and metallic, almost like burnt wiring mixed with rust. It stung their nostrils and lingered in their throats. One of the rangers remarked that it smelled like a storm without lightning. They marked the camp and continued searching in widening circles. At sunset, the forest began to change. A low fog rolled in, hugging the ground and obscuring their path. Radio signals crackled, breaking up with heavy static. Despite being less than 2 miles from base camp, communication failed entirely. That night, the team decided to bed down where they were, keeping a fire going and rotating watches. At 3:17 a.m., one of the rangers on watch heard movement. Not footsteps, something heavier, dragging, shifting between the trees. He aimed his flashlight, but the beam seemed to dissolve in the fog. Then came the sound, a hollow knocking, like wood striking wood, echoing from multiple directions. When he awoke the others, the noises ceased instantly. They searched the perimeter, but found nothing, only the same chemical odor drifting faintly in the mist. By morning, visibility improved. Roughly a half-mile from the abandoned camp, they found the first body. It was a young man, later identified as one of the students. He was kneeling upright against a tree, hands folded neatly in his lap. His face was pale, lips blue, and his eyes still wide open were coated in a thin, frost-like film, despite the warm September air. There were no signs of struggle, no wounds, and no indication of what had killed him. The only detail that stood out was the ground around him. The moss in a 10-foot radius had turned jet black, brittle to the touch, as though it had been burned without flame. The team radioed frantically, but their transmissions still failed. With no choice, 2 rangers stayed with the body while the rest pressed forward. What they encountered next ended the search entirely. Scattered across a clearing were the other students, not together, but positioned deliberately, each one seated, or lying in ways that suggested careful arrangement. One girl was laid flat, with her arms crossed over her chest. Another was seated against a boulder, head tilted upward, toward the sky. None bore signs of injury. None showed evidence of poisoning or struggle, but each of their eyes was coated with the same frost-like film, and around each body, the ground was blackened, lifeless. At the very center of the clearing lay an object. Not man-made, not natural. A perfect sphere of polished stone, about 4 feet across, partially embedded in the earth. Its surface was flawless, reflective, yet oddly warm to the touch. The rescuers, shaken, dared not move it. They marked its location, documented the scene, and began the trek back with what evidence they could carry: the disposable camera, a few personal belongings, and a set of notes scrawled in a damp journal. The journal belonged to one of the students, a girl named Anna McDermott. Her handwriting grew increasingly erratic as the entries progressed. September 9th, we made it past the ridge today. Hard hike, but spirits are good. The valley is beautiful. Strange how quiet it is, though no birds. Just silence. September 10th. Ethan swears he saw lights last night, like lanterns moving between the trees. But when we looked, nothing. The ground feels damp even though it hasn't rained. Something about this place feels wrong. September 11th. We found the sphere. At first we thought it was a sculpture, but who could drag something like that out here? It hums at night, just under the edge of hearing. My teeth ache when I sit too close. September 12th. The others can't sleep. We hear knocking sounds from the trees, like someone's out there watching. The moss near the sphere is turning black. I don't want to stay here, but no one wants to leave. It's like we're being pulled closer. I dreamed last night that we all sat around it, holding hands, waiting for something. I woke up and realized we actually were. None of us remember walking there. The final entry smeared with water damage, read only. We belong to it now. When the Rangers finally returned to base, shaken and exhausted, they handed over their findings. A second, larger team was organized, this time including federal agents and scientific consultants. But when they reached the clearing, the sphere was gone. The bodies too. The blackened patches of moss remained, but the clearing looked otherwise undisturbed, as though nothing had ever happened there. Official reports listed the cause of death for the students as environmental exposure. The files were sealed, and Silent Valley was closed to the public indefinitely. No explanation was ever given for the missing bodies, the journal entries, or the mysterious sphere. Locals whispered about government cover-ups, about experimental weapons testing, even about something not of this world. But none of those rumors were ever confirmed. In the years since, hikers who strayed too close to the valley have reported the same things. The silence, the chemical odor, the faint knocking in the trees. Some claim to have seen lights moving in the fog. Others swear they found perfect circles of blackened moss, warm to the touch. None of these accounts were investigated officially. Silent Valley remains closed off, marked by rusting no trespassing signs and a chain-link fence that stretches for miles. To this day, no one knows what the students found, or why they died without a mark on their bodies. All that remains are the journal entries, the faded photographs, and the memories of a rescue team who walked into the hollow expecting to find lost hikers, and instead uncovered a mystery that refuses to die. And maybe that's the most chilling part, because if the Silent Valley incident was just a tragedy, just a group of hikers succumbing to exposure or bad luck, the story would have ended there. But the reports haven't stopped. The rumors haven't faded. The hollow waits, silent, patient, as though it's not finished with us yet.